Hello, humans. This one is about a few cases of fright, also appropriate for the month of Halloween. So here we go. Oh, some of these cases I may have used before in a previous thing. So if it sounds familiar, yeah, I might be repeating myself some, but I'm pretty sure not all of these have been done before. So here we go. Yeah, sorry. There we go. Okay, so this is a case about insomnia involving the gallbladder, not the heart, from Ming Yi Lei An, which is this Ming Dynasty case study collection. So a Yuan dynasty doctor named Liu, he treated someone who was ill with insomnia. When this person slept, he had palpitations, and his Shen felt intimidated as if he were somewhere alone on a rampart with enemies surrounding him. So he was dreaming of war and being embattled. I would be curious to know if he had actually been a soldier and been in this situation and who was having, post-traumatic stress dreams, or if this was just something random that came to him. In any case, he dreamed of being, surrounded by the enemy until dawn. His eyes were gummy and they could see nothing. His ears were dull and he heard nothing. Even though he, lay down in a dark room and stayed lying down, and it was quiet there, but his eyelashes never touched each other. In other words, his eyes never closed. Doctors had treated him, but nothing worked. So Liu felt his pulse, and the yang of the left guan was floating and deficient. He examined the patient's complexion, and he could see a branch of the Xiaoyang flowing out from the corner of his eyes. So somehow the Xiaoyang channels or the Xiaoyang wool vessels were visible. And the person who compiled this case study collection says branches of the three channels, the foot Jueyin, the hand Xiaoyang, and the hand Taiyang bind at the outer canthus. So he's, just pointing out that, this is possible. The Sanjiao channel goes to that region. So you immediately told the patient, you got this from gallbladder deficiency with wind. All the other doctors had only treated his heart, but they didn't get rid of wind of the gallbladder. And that was improper treatment. So, on the basis of this pattern diagnosis, Lou gave secret formulas. Oh, I want to know the secret formulas. And then actually, I didn't do the research, but they list Wu Mei Tang and Bao Dan one. Um, are those the two secret formulas? I didn't check. I should have checked. But anyway, these cases that I give are not really for me to discuss the herbs in detail necessarily. You can Google those formulas. Anyway, so he gave formulas to take twice a day, and then the patient slept soundly, awoke, and the disease was gone. So the point of this is not all insomnia is heart-based insomnia. Some of it is gallbladder-based insomnia, and so we need to be able to recognize that. Then we have two cases from Zhang Zihe, who was one of the four great masters of the Jin Yuan dynasty, and he used some unusual methods. This is an unusual method. The wife of somebody named Wei spent the night upstairs in an inn while she was traveling. And that night, robbers set the place on fire. I guess when they set it on fire, people rush out carrying their valuables and then they can rob them. In a fright, she fell off the bed. From then on, every time she heard a sound, she would collapse from fright and lose consciousness. So her family tiptoed around. Nobody dared to make a sound. More than a year passed, but she didn't get any better. Lots of doctors had come and treated this as a heart pattern using things like ginseng and pearls and Dingzhi will settling pill. But they weren't working because it wasn't a heart issue. Zhang Dairen, which is another name for this same Zhang Zehe, he came and saw her and he diagnosed her and said, this is very interesting here, this passage. Fright is yang, it enters from the exterior, like robbers and stuff like that. Fear is yin, it comes from the interior. Fright comes from the unknown, fear comes from the known. The Fuchaiyang gallbladder channel belongs to liver wood. Gallbladder is courage. That's true. There's a chapter in Neijing all about that. Fright damages the gallbladder. So then he does this really wild thing that I'm not so sure you and I are going to do today. He ordered two maidservants to hold her arms and put her on a high chair, a tall chair, so she's, up a little higher. And then he set a low table right in front of her. So it was she had to look down to see this table. Zhang Dairen said, "Madam, you should watch this." And then he abruptly struck the table with a piece of wood, greatly frightening the woman. Oh, sorry, it's in red. There was some others. There's a quote from Neijing, but I'm not sure I have that in this, handout. Anyway, we'll see. Anyway, he struck the table with a piece of wood and sounds would really startle her. So she was greatly frightened. Dairen said, "I struck the table with a piece of wood. What? Why are you so frightened from that? It's just a piece of wood. It's just a table." He waited for her fright to settle a bit, and then he struck it again. Her fright was somewhat less. After a few moments, he struck the table 3 or 5 times, and next he struck the door with a stick. He then secretly dispatched someone to draw a window behind him. This window behind him, I have some questions about that, but we'll see in a minute. Anyway, sorry. Gradually, her fright settled. She smiled and said, "Why are you doing this to treat me? What's up with that?" And Dairen said, "Neijing says for someone who is frightened, familiarize themselves with it." And that's this word ping, which has a lot of meanings. And one of the meanings is level, even and level, not sticking out, but flat, that kind of thing. That's its most common meaning. But it also has a meaning of, ordinary and, yeah. So this word is ping. And Neijing says, yeah, for someone who's frightened, familiarize themselves with it, this word ping. Familiar or ping means ordinary, chang, because there's this phrase, ping chang, which means ordinary, which clearly means ordinary. So this is a way in Chinese people, express what something means, is they find a compound term that involves the character you're discussing, and they say, this is the meaning of this character. So ping chang is ordinary, and so ping means something that's ordinary, something that's familiar. And so now he's translating this sentence, fright, when there's, for someone who's frightened, ping it. And so familiarize them with it. But you could translate this as level it, level the fright. There are other ways, even ping can mean calm. So it's clear, though, from the paragraph, the way he defines it, that he means to familiarize. When someone's frightened, get them familiar with, whatever it is. Remember, he said on the previous slide, let me go back, or somewhere he said, fright comes from the unknown. And so if you familiarize yourself with the unknown, it's no longer so frightening. It becomes known. And then maybe you'll be fearful of it, but you won't be so frightened. So that night, he made people beat on the door and window from dusk until dawn, to familiarize herself with noises and sounds. He says, fright is the Shen leaping up. He made her look down by beating on the low table. So the Shen is floating upward, but because he made her vision focus on downward, and the Shen connects with the eyes. So he's pulling the Shen down by making her look downward, and then he's familiarizing herself with the sounds by beating on the table. So as a result, her Shen gathered inward. After a day or two, she was not frightened, even if she heard thunder. And so, that reminded me, like, why does he mention thunder? Well, I Ching, the Book of Changes, says Jun Gua, Jun is one of the 8 trigrams it's the one that represents thunder. And it's a famous sentence from the I Ching: thunder startles for 100 li, which is like, I think a li is about 3 li is about 1 mile. So, that is thunder startles for 30 miles. But this startling or frightening, the same word means fright or startled. It's the same word. And so that thunder is something that's associated with fright or startling. And so, even when she heard the most frightening, startling thing, she wasn't frightened anymore. Her husband, named Dushin, had not been fond of Zhang Dairen. I can't imagine why. He's the guy that always uses sweating and vomiting and inducing a bowel movement as part of his treatment. Plus, he seems pretty arrogant and brash, although funny at times. So her husband hadn't liked him. But from this moment on, when he cured the husband's wife, until the end of his days, he was convinced. And if anyone said that Zhang Dairen didn't know medicine, he chased them off with a dagger. So he's got like a big fan now. Okay. There's one more case from Zhang Zihe, which also I find amusing. This case is entitled Fearful Mind with Ribside Pain. So somebody named Sun from Luoyang, which was an ancient capital, was falsely accused in a lawsuit. And his wife was taken into custody, but he must not have been at home at the time. And then when he heard his wife had been arrested, he fled to an old friend. That night, he felt pain in his stomach and rib sides. So he pleaded with his old friend to get him medicine, but he's hiding out, so he can't go out looking for medicine. The old friend said, "There's a famous doctor named Zhang Dairen nearby. I'll go with you." So it's night, they sneak out. And at that time, Zhang Dairen was suffering a hangover. So they knocked on his door and he's shouting loudly at them, "Go away. I'm not seeing you now. Come back in the morning." The old friend said, "I am with a close relative who's sick. We hope you'll diagnose him." Dairen looked out the window and saw Sun and said, "This guy is hiding out in a great panic." And the old friend said, "How do you know that?" And Dairen said, "His face is green," which is liver gallbladder, but stripped of color. So his gallbladder has suffered terror. So it's green, but like pale. Later, Sun was pardoned and left from his hiding place. Only then did the friend tell Zhang Dairen that Sun had been a wanted man. So those are my cases on Fright. Um, maybe we didn't really talk about a treatment you can use, but maybe it will help you understand fright and the gallbladder and, diagnosis. Maybe not. Maybe they're just fun stories, but that's it for today.